Hello, citizens of Oklahoma and of America. Well, today I am going to hit the Perry Arena probably one last time in talking about the arena itself. After today, it's just going to become the Perry, Oklahoma Crownline Arena case scenario, for which we're going to talk about things that need a change in Oklahoma that will deal with hopefully a lot of the stuff that the city of Perry in this project has created or has made use of avoiding. So anyways, one of the first things I want to talk about is, I just want to make mention, the saying goes, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink. Well, you can lead a city to do the right things, but you can't make the city do the right things. So anyways, let's get into this and talk about the different parts that kind of been part of all this whole project. First and foremost, we have Richard Crow, the owner, developer, and general contractor of this project. Based on my past experiences with him, he has always tried to get out of the doing what he needs to do when it comes to, in this case, building projects. And in this case, he has proven to do exactly just what he always does, get out of whatever you can. Now, the main thing that I think everybody needs to remember is when everything comes down to it, and if anything does start happening with addressing the items that were not being taken care of, I'll guarantee you one thing. Richard Crow is going to blame the city of Perry for everything. He's going to state that the city of Perry allowed him to do what he did. They're going to state it was the city's inspector who signed off on everything. Richard Crow, I'm almost positive, will not take a bit of responsibility for anything that is not built to code with this project. So, having said that, let's talk about some of the other things that have happened in this project. Again, we've talked about Paul Gunderson, the inspector, the third-party inspector that the city had hired to do the plan reviews and inspections for this project. Well, it has turned out that in the process of investigating his certifications, turns out that he did not have a single certification he needed to become an authorized provider building inspector. And when his licensure came due here about a couple months ago, the SIA Construction Industries Board did not renew his license. Anyways, if you want to go look that up, it still shows expired, and it looks like at least we got somebody out of the inspection licensures that should never have been in it. And that is a question for the Construction Industries Board as to why this individual ever got this licensure to begin with. One that appears that he's had for at least 4 years that I know of. Another thing that came into play in all this was we got an architect finally in this project that was required by the law. And he came in late in the game. They never did stop the project to get this architect involved. However, this architect seemed to think that he did not have to follow his licensure laws either as an architect. If someone would ask me if I ever thought that a licensed architect in Oklahoma would ever be this blatant in not following the laws, I would have probably made the comment that I wouldn't believe that the licensed architect would do such a thing. However, I was wrong. This architect did not much more than what was ever turned in originally, which he stamped and signed and turned in, and which again Paul Gunderson, who was still working for the city during all this, did sign off his drawings and moved forward. So apparently it looks like that this architect figured that since he knew somebody was going to sign it off in the city, that he didn't have to do his responsibilities. However, as I've turned in a complaint to the architectural board, there are multiple areas in which, based on the state statutes, that this architect, who is name is Kirk Atchison, if I'm saying it right, failed to provide much of what is required as part of a complete set of plans being designed by an architect. Now, one of the things they said to me is like I could turn in a complaint if there was something I felt that he was doing wrong. And I have several pages here of just nothing but the areas in which I feel that this architect failed to meet his requirements as an architect. Now, I'm sure he's not going to probably be happy having his name put out there with this project, but he knew that I was going to be looking at this project. He knew that it was under scrutiny, and yet he still chose to follow the minimum, that he thought he could get away with, and having, this incompetent and unqualified building inspector sign it off, which he did. So anyways, these are all documented things. I have the drawings here from the architect that are stamped and signed that were turned into the city that have the stamp from Paul Gunderson on it. And I have all the references for the state statutes in regards to what he didn't provide. One of the big items on there was the fact that he did not have a code analysis. Again, he did not address the fire sprinkler system. He did not address any occupant load. So any which way you look at it, this architect really just did not do his job, and thus, again, just goes back to everybody just doing what they can not to do the right thing. Now, one of the big items I think we brought up in the earlier things is that this building is at least required to be partially sprinkled. A lot of times when buildings are required to be fire sprinkled, they have to have the whole building sprinkled. But there is an exception in there for a type A4 assembly use like this one is, where you have an arena area. That the arena area does not need to be fire sprinkled, but you still have to fire sprinkler everything else. Every area where you have all your spectators, your concession areas, so on and so forth, all those areas are all still required to be fire sprinkled. Now, there's three things that kick that in. One is an area that, if you have your fire area over 12,000 square feet, this building's over 100,000 square feet. If you have an occupant load of 300 or more, so far nobody's ever provided any, but my lowest count, based on the drawings that were here, put us at least at 1,500 occupants in this building. The third one is that you need the fire sprinkler system in order to get the unlimited use, which they use to get the size of the building up to over the 100,000 square feet. So for everybody who is planning on attending the Crownline Arena, I'll take particular attention when you go in there, and all the areas that you're hanging out in to watch the event, look above you, and if you don't see any fire sprinklers above you, that is not the way it should be. And so just beware if you go there that you pay special attention to where all the exits are, so you have a clear path to know where you need to get out if in an event there's a fire, because none of the fire protection that is required by the building codes has been provided. So another part of this is the city council. The city council is the one who puts the city management in place. The city council is the one who is really kind of overseeing and making sure that the city is run correctly. And in this case, it's through a city manager. So as I would tell any jurisdiction, I says whether you have a board or a city council, is the one thing you always want to make sure you do is you make sure that your city management knows what it needs to be doing as a city management, and that you back them up when they do the correct things as a city management. Well, in this case, the city council decided they weren't going to have any conversations with me. They were not going to have any discussions with me. I've sent them emails informing them of things as they were discovered, and they have taken no time or effort to really reach out to me. The only ones that have responded to me all said that they're leaving that up to the city manager at the city. Now, again, I don't know what their city attorney is telling them. I don't know what their city attorney is advising them to do, but it would seem to me that their city attorney should have, be advising them to make sure that they are following the laws and making sure that things aren't happening. Everything that I've brought up as a concern has been proven. I've gotten all the documents from the city through my FOIA requests, which they charge me for every time I get them. They also always slow boat them a little bit to make sure that I don't get them right away, as if that makes a difference in the long run of changing how things are going to play out. So again, now we have come back to the city management. What they're thinking is, I mean, apparently they must have some idea that that's what the city council want. I don't know what kind of conversation happens between city council and city management, but city management usually runs with what they feel like the city council wants them to do. Now we know that there's a agreement between Richard Crowe and the city for economic development purposes, that they are to have so many events every year. I believe it's 12 events a year. And what the assumption is that they're going to get money off of the ticket sales. They're going to get money off people using the restaurants, the hotels, and whatever city services that are part of anybody coming to visit the city will be. So obviously there's a city connection between these two, and both, the city and the owner both have a vested interest to make this work. However, they should not be doing that at the expense of the safety of the people coming to the Crownline Arena. So anyways, there's a lot of questions here, and it looks like, as far as I know, this project's going to be signed off. I believe they've probably stopped using Paul Gunderson by now, but, I guess we'll wait and see who's going to be stepping in to do the final inspection, who's going to sign off on the Certificate of Occupancy. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we're going to be looking to see whoever those individuals are as to why they're making those decisions to proceed forward, even though we know we got issues with the fire sprinkler system, and who knows, maybe with other items such as emergency egress. So again, this is just kind of a sad situation in my opinion. I know people think that I do what I do because I have some vengeful motive against the city of Perry for some reason, that I'm a disgruntled person because of whatever. Anyways, anything that happens in my life, I move forward. I don't dwell in the past. I just knew that this project had all the makings of going wrong, and based on what everybody has done, in effect have proven me right, not proven me wrong. And if somebody thinks that they got something to show that I'm in the wrong, then they are more than welcome to bring that forward. However, nobody's done that to date, and I really don't think anybody's going to come forward and say anything at this point. So anyways, I hope that this eventually gets corrected in the future, and they do get that fire sprinkler put in. We do get to look at the egress and things like that get addressed. But right now, I have no reason to believe that the city of Perry or the owner of the project is going to do any such thing. Just based on everything else going on. So from here on out, I am going to be working on what needs to happen within the state of Oklahoma to fix a lot of the issues that are creating this scenario to happen. I mean, as the city of Perry, they are the authority having jurisdiction. They are the ones ultimately responsible to make sure the laws are followed when it comes to building projects. And anyways, I'm hoping that we can get into some good discussions and we get things changed in Oklahoma. I really hope that nothing bad happens in this arena. I have a feeling that Richard Crowe may use it for more than just his rodeo type events. But anyways, those are those are wait to be seen. Anyways, he also has a Facebook page and a web page for this arena. As of today, there was nothing shown about when he plans on doing any events or when it's going to open. But based on just the time frame and kind of where we think things might be at, I am assuming that this building isn't too far off from being completed. Anyways, I appreciate you for taking some time to listen to me today. I hope that you all take some concern in our communities and take more, of an active approach when it comes to our government. And thank you again for the time. Have a nice night.